Have you ever stopped to think that some of the strongest people you know have never raised their voices? They don't ask for help, don't show their pain, don't cry in public, yet they are there, firm, silent, carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders as if it were light. This video is about those invisible, but absolutely essential women. It's about that woman who wakes up every day with a smile on her face, even after sleepless nights. The one who comforts others, even when her own heart is in pieces. Today, we're diving deep into the silent strength of the woman who suffers quietly, but remains standing. Before we continue, drop a comment with just one phrase. I know this woman. You might be honoring your mother, a friend, or even yourself. In this video, you'll discover why silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words, why God hears whispered prayers, and how the strength no one sees is often the one that holds everything together. This woman is like a deeply rooted tree that stands firm through storms, not out of stubbornness, but because she's anchored in faith, wisdom, and trust in God. We live in an era that values performance. Social media rewards the loudest, the most visible, the most expressive. Emotions are exposed, pain becomes content, and achievements need likes to seem real. But there's another kind of strength, rarer, nobler, that doesn't need a stage, as the prophet Isaiah 32:15 reminds us. In quietness and trust is your strength. The woman who suffers in silence lives out this truth. Her strength lies in her calmness, her deep trust, even when her heart is breaking. How many women today walk the streets, sit in offices, return home, carrying burdens no one sees, silent heartbreaks, hidden loneliness, disappointments that hurt deeply but quietly. She doesn't need to justify herself. Her choice to be silent is not cowardice, it's courage. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pain." And this woman knows that sometimes silence is the only space where you can truly hear God's voice. A powerful example of this is found in the story of Hannah. In 1 Samuel 1, amid the pain of infertility and the constant humiliation from her rival, Hannah chose not to retaliate, not to act like a victim, not to complain publicly. She withdrew, and with tears in her eyes, poured her soul out before the Lord. Her silence wasn't a lack of faith, it was her deepest expression of it. Engage with us in the comments. Have you ever felt like Hannah? Had to bear pain no one could understand? Share your heart by writing, "God is my strength." Your testimony could inspire someone today. We often confuse strength with noise. We think strength is speaking loud, standing tall, being heard. But there is a harder strength. The strength of someone who chooses silence. The woman who keeps her pain to herself isn't pretending everything is fine. She simply knows that some pain is too sacred to be shared with the world. Only God can understand. This kind of strength isn't passive. It's a decision, a form of resistance. In a world that glorifies exposure, she protects her soul like a hidden treasure. By choosing not to let pain turn into bitterness, she preserves herself. As Hebrews 12:15 warns us, see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. How many people do we know who've become bitter, hardened, distrustful of everyone? Many of them were once like Hannah but didn't know what to do with their pain. They turned their suffering into poison. But the woman of silent strength chooses another way. She pours out what the world cannot understand before God. And there, in prayer, she finds peace. Have you ever had to remain silent to protect your faith? Share with, "In silence, I am heard by God." Silence is not weakness. It's knowing where your strength truly comes from. C.S. Lewis also said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." This woman's courage is in how she perseveres, with no stage, no applause, and often no answers. She is strong because she chooses to continue. In everyday life, she might be your mother, your sister, your neighbor, the co-worker who always smiles even when her eyes are tired. She is the woman who doesn't open up for fear of being judged, but turns her tears into prayers, her silence into faith, her pain into purpose. The woman who carries her pain in silence doesn't just endure, she accepts. And acceptance, contrary to what many think, is not giving up. Acceptance is wisdom. It is recognizing that there are things we cannot change and trusting that God can still do something with it. Think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel announced her calling, she didn't argue, didn't revolt, She simply responded, I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. Luke 1:38. That's strength. That's faith. That's complete trust. She knew the path ahead would be hard, that she would face judgment and pain, but she trusted. This kind of acceptance requires something rare: humility. The woman of silent strength understands she doesn't have to understand everything. She learns that some questions may never be answered in this life. As Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. In practice, she may be the woman who lost a child and still takes care of her family, or the one who went through a painful divorce but still believes in love, or the one battling an illness but never stops praying for others. She has learned to let go of control and found peace in that. This kind of acceptance brings freedom. When we stop trying to control everything, the heart becomes free. We are no longer trapped by the past or enslaved by the future. We live in the now. The woman who accepts, trusts, and those who trust, rest. The woman of silent strength doesn't need words to be present. She speaks with her gaze, with simple gestures, with a silence that welcomes. In a world that's always rushing, yelling, and judging, her presence feels like an oasis. She's not there to judge, advise, or fix. She's simply there, and that is enough. Have you ever been in pain and someone just sat next to you, didn't say a word, but somehow that was exactly what you needed? That is the essence of this woman. It is what we see in Job 2:13. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was. Job's friends understood that his pain was too sacred to be touched by ordinary words. C.S. Lewis said, "We must never tell people, you ought not to feel that. What we feel is what we feel." The silent woman understands this. She doesn't try to rationalize or diminish someone else's pain. She listens with her heart. Her silence says, "I'm here. You're not alone." In everyday life, this woman is the one who notices when you're off, even if you say you're fine. She sees the distant look, the disguised sigh, the absence of light in your eyes, and even without words, she acts with care. A cup of coffee left on the desk, a silent hug, a message in the middle of the night. "I'm praying for you." All of it speaks powerfully. She knows that pain doesn't always need a solution. Sometimes it just needs space, and she offers that emotional shelter where others can be vulnerable without fear of judgment. In a culture obsessed with answers, advice, and certainty, the woman of silent strength does something rare. She listens, truly listens, without interrupting, without formulating a reply while the other is still speaking. She listens with her heart, with empathy. Listening is an act of love. It says, "You matter. Your pain matters. I'm here to carry a piece of it with you." And she learned this not just from life, but from Christ. When Jesus met the woman at the well, John 4, he didn't judge her. He listened, understood, and transformed her through his attention. The silent woman does the same. By listening, she heals. If you know a woman like this, mention her in the comments with a heart. Let's honor the quiet listeners who change lives. She doesn't seek the spotlight, but wherever she is, she transforms the atmosphere. At home, she's the one who hears her children without mocking their feelings. At work, she's the one who comforts a colleague without exposing their vulnerability. At church, she's the one who prays for everyone, even when no one knows her own pain. She understands that listening is also service, that not every person needs advice. Sometimes they just need a safe space, and that many lives are saved by someone willing to simply listen without judging. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, 'What, you too? I thought I was the only one.'" The silent woman creates that kind of connection. Her listening makes others feel understood and loved, and when she does speak, her words carry weight, because they were shaped in silence, nurtured in empathy, refined through prayer. They are not empty words, they are healing. The woman who carries her pain in silence speaks a language of her own, a vocabulary not learned in books, but in life. She speaks through actions, through prayer, through consistency. She is an anchor in storms, a lighthouse in the night, a cool shade in the heat of despair. Her strength isn't measured by likes, but by the lives restored around her. She doesn't need to prove herself. Her presence proves her. She doesn't need to say she's strong. Her life says it louder. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. The woman of silent strength reflects Christ himself, who often chose silence as his answer. During his trial, amid the accusations, he remained silent not out of weakness, but wisdom. His cross was more eloquent than any speech. His resurrection was the ultimate response. So it is with her. Her life speaks louder than any argument. To you, woman who relates to this message, never think your strength is small just because it's quiet. God sees every uncried tear, heard only by him, every whispered prayer. Every night you held the world on your back without complaint. And to all of us who live alongside women like her, may we learn to see them, honor them, and learn from them. May we abandon the cult of noise and rediscover the sacredness of silence. C.S. Lewis once said, "Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods." The silent woman does this daily. She holds on to God, even when everything around her falls apart. She is, without a doubt, a warrior. Not all strength shouts. Some simply exist with depth, wisdom, and faith. And perhaps, for that very reason, they are the most powerful of all. May we become like these women, and when we see them, may we never confuse silence with weakness, but recognize a strength only heaven can measure. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our posts. See you in the next video.